In the last 2 decades, we've heard more and more attention about deficit disorders, ADD, and attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD. The most common treatment for this disorder is a drug called Ritalin. This drug is being given to more and more children in this country.
According to the manufacturers of the drugs, the following side effects can and do occur: heart palpitations, cardiac arrhythmias, psychosis, dizziness, and tremor, to just name a few. There is no valid test for ADHD. The diagnosis, called ADHD, is completely subjective.
And for anyone from the APA or psychiatry to come here and say these are diseases is a fraud.
I am Richard Nakamura, the acting director of the National Institute of Mental Health. It's very important to realize that when ADHD is properly diagnosed, there seems to be very little problem with substance abuse.
This Congress up here doesn't want you to come up here and shade things the way that the health agencies want. We want you to tell the truth for the American people. It really bothers me that you guys do this all the time. You do it all the time. Tell the whole truth, not just the part that you want told.
Fox News has learned 7 of the last 12 school shooters were on Luvox-like antidepressants or SSRIs. The list includes 15-year-old Kip Kinkle withdrawing from Prozac when he shot 22 classmates, killing 2 after murdering his mother and stepfather at his home in Springfield, Oregon. 14-year-old Elizabeth Bush on Prozac when she blasted away at fellow students in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, wounding 1. 18-year-old Jason Hoffman on Effexor and Celexa when he opened fire at his California high school, wounding 5. 15-year-old Sean Cooper on a mix of antidepressants when he shot students in Idaho. 15-year-old TJ Solomon also on a mix of antidepressants when he aimed his shotgun at classmates in Conyers, Georgia, wounding 6. And 17-year-old Eric Harris on Luvox when he and partner Dylan Klebold killed 12 classmates and a teacher in the bloodiest school massacre yet, Columbine. 2 years ago, 16-year-old Corey Badsgard took a rifle to his high school and held 23 classmates hostage. Just one more apparently unexplainable violent outburst at school. Unexplainable to everyone but Corey's dad. So in your mind, there's no doubt what happened here?
I had no doubt that the medication did this. I mean, he had amnesia, hallucinations earlier, abnormal dreams, which are all side effects of the medication.
In 1997, after his mother had reluctantly decided to put him on Ritalin, she saw disturbing changes.
He went from a social child to an antisocial child.
Michael was suffering from some of the most common stimulant side effects.
Instead of recognizing the effects the drugs were having on my son, the school psychologist claimed Michael now had a quote-unquote social anxiety disorder and needed to see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist talked to Michael for 15 minutes and diagnosed him with social anxiety disorder. She handed me a prescription for an antidepressant and told me it was a wonder drug for kids. Michael started taking the antidepressant. Shortly afterwards, he told his teacher he was hearing a male voice in his head telling him to do bad things. I did what I knew I had to do. I took him off the drugs, which culminated with the school calling Child Protective Services on my husband and I, charging us with medical neglect. The only reason my son was not removed from my custody that day was that I had obtained an independent psychological evaluation in which the psychologist stated that Michael did not require hospitalization. Today, Michael is doing fine. He has been off drugs for 9 months and is once again a social, happy, outgoing boy. He is in private school, and I also homeschool him.
Jefferson County parent told me that he had first complied with the school's direction to place his son on a stimulant drug. The drug caused his son to become violent. He began taking steak knives out of the kitchen and stabbing his stuffed animals and mattress.
After a short time of taking the pills, Anthony was begging me to get him off the drug. He said to me, "Mommy, I don't feel good. I feel dizzy. I keep falling asleep in the class. Other symptoms that he experienced were tiredness, he passed out, he would throw up, and he looked drugged. I took him to 2 medical doctors and both told me to get him off that drug, so I did. When the therapist found out that I did that, she forced me to get him back on the drug. I told her, "What do you want, for me to kill my child?" I refused one more time to put him back on the drug. 2 days later, 2 policemen and 2 social workers came to my house and took all 4 of my kids away. They took Anthony, who was 9 years old, as well as my 7-year-old son, my 5-year-old daughter, and my baby, who was 5 months. The police said that it was for neglecting to give a prescription order for my son. They told me they would only have my children for 24 hours. Now, almost a year later, I still don't have my children with me.
I had side effects, a shake, trembles, convulsions.
One time I went to go visit my grandson, and I didn't even know who he was. He couldn't even eat what I had bought him because his tongue was so thick and everything. He was saying to me, "Grandma, look, what are you going to do? Wait till they kill me."
Matthew Smith took Ritalin from age 6 to the day he died at age 14. On March 21st, the day these pictures were taken, Matthew collapsed at home and never revived. After an autopsy, the medical examiner's conclusion was that Matthew's heart had been damaged by long-term use of methylphenidate, the generic name for Ritalin.
Mark and Cheryl Miller say Zoloft, an antidepressant that was given to help their son, 13-year-old Matthew, killed him instead.
We asked, are there any adverse effects whatsoever? And they said possibly some indigestion, maybe some insomnia, but there was no discussion about any other kind of adverse psychiatric effects whatsoever.
Matthew became uncharacteristically moody and agitated, and after 7 days on the drug, he committed suicide.
We teach our kids, we tell them to say no to drugs, but yet we prescribe some of the most powerful, mind-altering stimulants that you can imagine with very little education. And I think that's criminal.
For 4 years, my son was placed on increased levels of Ritalin, taken off of Ritalin and put on low-grade doses of Mellaril, taking the Mellaril and Ritalin in combination along with Dilantin. So on my own, I removed the medicine from the boy. Approximately 2 months after my son was taken off the Ritalin, my son hung himself.
Did no one inform you that one of the side effects of withdrawal from Ritalin was attempted suicide?
Absolutely none. And what the psychological, psychiatry, medical profession did for this boy, they killed him.
A little girl named Shayna Dunkel.
She always was happy, very upbeat. She could just make the sunshine. She was a special child. The school kept influencing, saying, something's not right here. She can't sit still. You gotta, you should do something. And that's where it all got started.
By 2nd grade, the school psychologist urged the Dunkels to take Shayna to a doctor. Psychiatrist Roger LaRoche in Bradford, Pennsylvania, diagnosed Shayna with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. Dr. LaRoche described desipramine as safer, with fewer side effects, and less potential for abuse. Shayna was given more and more of the drug, and over a 5-month period, her prescribed dosage increased to 250 milligrams per day.
The Dunkels were unaware of the risky side effects.
10 o'clock in the morning, I received a phone call from the school nurse telling me that Shayna had taken a slight fall in library. And I explained to her that we were going to go to the doctor, and immediately she said, "Mommy, I don't need to go to the doctor. I feel perfectly fine. I want to play my Nintendo."
Vicki and Steve drove Shayna to her pediatrician, just a few feet away from Dr. LaRoche's office.
And the doctor listened to Shayna's heart, and he said, "Call a code 99. It meant cardiac arrest. And I knew my baby was in trouble.
My husband and I and the doctor and the nurse, we picked our daughter up and we took her into an examining room, and they took her shirt off, and she took 2 breaths of air, and that was the last time we ever saw our daughter alive. She died right there in a doctor's office where we thought we were taking her and she could come home and play Nintendo. She never made it back. She died there.
Saving other children, speaking out, that's what I need to do.
The day that my story aired in the front page of the New York Post, 65 parents came forward claiming that the schools were coercing them and threatening them to drug their children. Parents are coming forward, joining forces with us, and we are marching ahead to stop the drugging of American children.